No one noticed the woman pulling over on Route 87, just outside of Marlow, Arizona. The desert sun was ruthless, baking the asphalt and blinding anyone who dared look too far ahead. A sleek black Aston Martin sat motionless on the shoulder, its hood open, smoke curling into the dry sky. Inside the luxury car, Grant Caldwell III, CEO of Caldwell Innovations, slammed the steering wheel. "God damn it," he hissed, glancing at his Rolex. 1:43 p.m. In exactly 17 minutes, he was supposed to be presenting the decade's biggest green tech merger to Silicon Valley's top investors. His $5 custom-tailored blazer clung to his back with sweat. He didn't know the first thing about engines. A rattling pickup slowed down beside him. A woman stepped out, mid-30s. Dark skin glistening, grease-stained jeans, rolled-up flannel sleeves. She moved like she belonged there, like the heat didn't faze her. "Looks like you need a hand," she said. Grant stared, confused by her calm. "I've got no service," he muttered. "My assistant's trying to send help." She leaned over the engine without asking. "It's your radiator. I can patch it up, get you to Flagstaff." Then he saw it. The silver ring with a tiny blue sapphire. He froze. Chapter 1: A Stranger in the Desert. Tanisha didn't wait for his permission. She popped the latch fully and lifted the hood like she'd done it 100 times. The engine was hissing, a fine mist of steam rising like smoke signals in the dry desert air. Grant watched her with narrowed eyes, still panting slightly from the heat and frustration. "You really know what you're doing?" he asked, more skeptical than rude. She shot him a glance that could strip paint. "I wouldn't be out here in 102 degrees patching up strangers' cars for fun if I didn't." He opened his mouth, then shut it. "Fair point." She pulled a wrench from her tool belt and began unscrewing a housing near the radiator. Her hands moved with a strange elegance, quick, precise, deliberate. Grant had seen high-level engineers, tech developers, even robotic surgeons, but there was something about the way she worked, focused, calm, no wasted motion, that made him pause. "You from around here?" he asked, leaning on the car frame. "Born in Marlow, grew up fixing tractors with my grandpa. Now I run a shop 12 miles west. Tanisha's Auto. Not much traffic, but I get the occasional lost millionaire." Grant cracked a reluctant grin. "You always this charming to guys in $1,000 shoes?" She smirked without looking up. "Only the ones who can't tell a thermostat from a spark plug." He actually laughed, short, dry, but real. The heat hadn't broken her. And maybe, just maybe, it was humbling him a little. She finished her makeshift patch and stood, wiping sweat from her forehead with her sleeve. "Okay, you've got about an hour's worth of drive time before this fix gives out. Head straight to Flagstaff. Don't stop, and don't gun it." He nodded slowly. "You saved my ass." "Yeah," she said, nonchalant, "but I'll deny it if you tell anyone." Then it happened. As he reached for his wallet, his eyes locked on her left hand. A silver ring glinted in the sun. Not flashy, delicate, old, with a tiny sapphire in the center. Time seemed to tilt. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked, his voice quieter now, tinged with something she couldn't read. Tanisha froze for just a second. Her eyes darted to the ring, then back to him. "It was my mother's," she said evenly. "Why?" Grant stared. The Arizona heat felt suddenly heavier. A memory, barely there, flickered in his mind. A tree. A promise. A little girl with bright eyes. A ring that was never supposed to be lost. "Nothing," he murmured, retreating from the thought. "Just looked familiar." But inside, something had cracked open. The woman in front of him wasn't just a roadside mechanic anymore. She was a mystery, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd met her before. Chapter 2: The Ring That Knew Too Much. Grant couldn't take his eyes off the ring. The way it shimmered in the sun, nestled on Tanisha's finger like it had always belonged there, it pulled at something deep in his chest. A memory long buried, too faint to be clear, but too powerful to ignore. "You okay?" Tanisha asked, sensing the sudden shift in his energy. He blinked, forcing a casual expression. "Yeah, just that ring. It really does look familiar." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she stepped back from the car. "Lot of rings in the world. Not like that one," Grant said, his voice softer now. Silver band. Sapphire in the center. The setting is custom. I should know. He stopped himself, suddenly unsure. He didn't want to sound crazy. Did he even remember it right? He was just a kid back then. 8, maybe 9? It was a long time ago. In a very different life. A life before the money. Before Caldwell Innovations. Before Las Vegas and helicopters and boardrooms. A life spent in a foster home outside Baton Rouge. He hadn't thought about that place in years. Didn't want to. But now, the memories came rushing back like floodwaters. The tall oak tree out back. The girl with big, hopeful eyes. Her name was Tasha? He whispered under his breath, the word escaping like a ghost. Tanisha didn't flinch, but her hand moved, instinctively, covering the ring. He noticed. You said that was your mom's? She nodded once, cautious now. Yeah, it's all I have of her. There was silence for a moment, thick and tense. The engine ticked softly as it cooled, but neither of them moved. What was your mom's name? Grant asked, trying to sound casual. It didn't work. Tanisha crossed her arms. Why are you asking me all these questions? Mr. Caldwell? He winced a little. I'm sorry. It's just, that ring looks exactly like one I gave to someone. A long time ago, when I was in foster care. Tanisha's eyes didn't leave his. You were at Open Heart? The world seemed to tilt. Grant took a step back, stunned. How did you? Because I was there too, she said, her voice tight. You're Tasha, he whispered, breathless. No, I'm Tanisha. But yeah, I used to be Tasha. Back then. The air between them buzzed like a live wire. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Grant's face had gone pale. His hands trembled slightly at his sides. 20 years. 20 years since they made that promise under the oak tree. I'll come back for you, he had said, pressing the ring into her tiny hand like it was a sacred vow. But he never came back. And now, here she was, grown, strong, different, the same. He swallowed hard. I thought you were gone. They told me that your family moved, that you were adopted. Tanisha shook her head. I wasn't adopted. I was left behind. Again. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Grant staggered emotionally, trying to process it all. Why didn't I remember sooner? He muttered. Tanisha gave him a sad smile. Because people like you move on. And people like me, we stay behind. He opened his mouth, but no words came. There was too much to say and no time to say it. I have to go, she said, turning toward her truck. Tanisha, wait. If your car breaks down again. My shop's 12 miles west. Tanisha's auto. First turn after the gas station. She climbed into her truck and pulled away, leaving him standing beside the luxury car that now felt like a relic from another life. Grant didn't move for a long time. He stared down the empty road, his heart pounding with guilt, recognition, and something dangerously close to longing. He had found her, or maybe, she had found him, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for what came next. If you're still listening to this story with me, comment the number 1 below. Let's see how many of us are still following Tanisha and Grant's journey, because it's only just beginning. Chapter 3: The Weight of Truth. Grant didn't sleep that night. He lay awake in his penthouse suite overlooking the glittering Las Vegas Strip. But all he could see was a dusty road, a silver ring, and a girl he once promised to come back for. Tanisha, Tasha. It didn't matter what name she went by now, he remembered her. Not just the face or the ring, but the way she used to draw birds on napkins. The way she would hum when she was nervous. The way she used to sit under that big oak tree in the back of Open Heart Foster Home, waiting for someone to pick her up. But no one ever did. Except him, for a moment. And then he left. What haunted him most wasn't the memory. It was what came after. The silence. The questions he never asked. The truth he never chased. Now it chased him. The next morning, Grant didn't go to the investor meeting. Instead, he drove 3 hours straight back to Marlow, past wind farms and dry plains, until he found Tanisha's garage. Tanisha's auto sat at the edge of town. The kind of place older folks remembered when mechanics knew your name and didn't charge extra for checking the tires. A bell above the door jingled as Grant stepped inside. He found her under the hood of an old Ford pickup, elbow deep in engine grease. You again, she muttered, not looking up. I have questions, Grant said, and I think you have answers. She sighed and straightened, wiping her hands on a rag. About the ring, or about what really happened to my family? Grant's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Tanisha nodded toward a metal cabinet in the back. She opened it and pulled out a file folder, worn and yellowed with time. She handed it to him. Inside were copies of land deeds, newspaper clippings, and one letter with the Caldwell Industries logo in bold across the top. My family owned land, she said quietly. 50 acres, right where your father built the new water plant last year. My mother, Amelia, refused to sell. Said it was sacred. It had natural springs running under it. Grant's eyes scanned the documents. One page caught his breath, a forged death certificate. My mom disappeared 2 weeks later. They told me she died in a car crash. Tanisha looked him straight in the eye. But she didn't. Grant staggered back a step, heart pounding. This is your mother? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. She's alive, Tanisha replied. Somewhere, someone helped her vanish. My Uncle James has been digging into this for years. Grant shook his head in disbelief. Why would my father? For water rights, she said bitterly. That land sits on the largest fresh water reserve in northern Arizona. Your father needed it for the plant. He couldn't buy it, so he buried the owner and took it. There was a long, awful silence. Grant had grown up believing in his family's legacy, believing that Caldwell Innovations was built on hard work, clean energy, and progress. Now he saw it for what it really was, a house built on stolen ground. And worse, he had never questioned it. He lied to me, Grant whispered. He told me we were helping communities. Tanisha gave him a long, sad look. Helping? He destroyed mine. Her voice was calm, but there was weight in every word, decades of sorrow wrapped in quiet rage. I need to fix this, he said, more to himself than to her. Tanisha folded her arms. You can't bring back 20 years. Or a mother I never got to grow up with. No, he said, but I can bring the truth to light. Tanisha hesitated, then nodded toward the folder. Then start there. As Grant left the garage, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the desert in warm gold. But the air still felt cold. He now understood what he'd been a part of, and what it had cost people like Tanisha. This wasn't just about a ring, or a memory, or a broken promise. It was about justice. Chapter 4: The Day of Truth. The invitation came in a cream-colored envelope. Elegant and official, Caldwell Industries would be holding a private ribbon-cutting ceremony for its flagship water purification complex. Nestled on 50 acres just outside Marlow, land that once belonged to Tanisha's family. Only select members of the press were invited. Local officials, state leaders, high-profile investors, and Grant Caldwell III, of course, expected to give a keynote speech. But when Grant showed up, he wasn't alone. Tanisha stood beside him, steady as a rock, her hair pulled back, a calm fire behind her eyes. She wore her garage uniform, not a dress, not a disguise. She wasn't there to blend in. She was there to be seen. As the band played and guests sipped chilled lemonade, the Caldwell patriarch, Charles Caldwell, stepped onto the stage. His smile was polished, his suit, custom pressed. He spoke of innovation, legacy, the future of sustainable water. But halfway through his speech, he saw them, Grant and Tanisha, walking toward the podium. The music stopped. What are you doing? Charles asked under his breath as Grant climbed the stairs. I'm correcting a lie, Grant said simply, then turned to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice even, but every syllable carried weight. What you're standing on right now isn't just a state-of-the-art facility. It's stolen land. A murmur rippled through the crowd. He paused, pulling the folder from his jacket. This land belonged to the Alston family. To Tanisha's mother, Amelia Alston. She didn't sell it. She was forced to disappear so it could be taken. Gasps, flashbulbs, whispers turned into a swell of stunned voices. My father, Grant said, locking eyes with Charles, forged a death certificate, covered up an entire family's story. And I helped build a legacy on top of that lie. Tanisha stepped forward. My mother's alive, she said, her voice soft but resolute. She's here today. From the side of the stage, a woman stepped forward, gray streaks in her hair, Shoulders stooped slightly by time but eyes sharp with memory. Amelia Alston. There was no applause, only silence, a holy kind of silence. Tanisha turned to her mother. I waited, every day. I thought you left me. Amelia's lips trembled. I never stopped looking for you. I was hidden, threatened, but never gone. They embraced, mother and daughter, separated by decades, systems, and silence. Their tears weren't dramatic. They were quiet, deep, earned. People cried in the audience. A city official stepped off stage. A local journalist started live streaming from her phone. Charles Caldwell said nothing. His power, his presence, seemed to shrink by the second. Grant turned back to the microphone. We have a choice, he said, to keep pretending, or to start making things right. That night, the ribbon never got cut. Instead, headlines rolled in. Caldwell Empire implodes over stolen land scandal. Missing woman found after 20 years in hiding. Son turns on father to expose corporate fraud. Tanisha and Amelia spent the night at her Uncle James's ranch, watching the coverage unfold with disbelief and quiet awe. They didn't smile much, but there was a lightness in the room that hadn't been there before. A kind of release, vindication, the kind that doesn't erase the pain, but acknowledges it, makes room for healing. The next morning, Grant returned, not in a suit, not in a limo, just jeans, boots, and a quiet look on his face. Tanisha met him outside the shop. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said, but I am asking for a second chance, to help fix what was broken. Not with money, with truth. Tanisha didn't answer right away. Then she opened the garage door and gestured toward an empty bay. Grab a wrench. If you're still listening to this story with me, comment the number 2 below. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't just set us free, it brings us home. Chapter 5. A new name. A new purpose. 6 months later, the once empty shop bay at Tanisha's Auto was now a fully renovated classroom, concrete floors polished, new tool cabinets along the walls, and a row of workbenches in the center. Above the entrance, a freshly painted sign read, Olivewood Foundation, Skills for Life. Hope for all. Outside, the air was warm with the scent of sage and engine oil. Kids from the local high school tinkered with old carburetors, guided by retired mechanics who volunteered every Tuesday. Laughter echoed from the back where Amelia, now fully reunited with her daughter, was teaching a group how to repair small engines. Tanisha leaned on the doorway, arms crossed, watching it all with a quiet pride she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. She didn't just get justice, she got her mother back, her name back, and more than that, a mission. Across the room, Grant stood with a clipboard, going over inventory with one of the instructors. He looked different now, simpler. No suit, no title, just a man trying to rebuild, piece by piece. He'd legally dropped the Caldwell name 3 months earlier. Now, he went by Grant Alston. I figured, he'd said to Tanisha, if I'm going to help build something better, I should start by carrying the right name. She hadn't responded right away. But later that night, Amelia hugged him for the first time and whispered, Welcome home. The water purification complex? It was never finished. After public outcry and a series of lawsuits, the land was returned to the Alston family. But instead of rebuilding on it, they transformed it into a protected reserve, a community park with hiking trails and a memorial garden dedicated to families affected by wrongful displacement. Grant had offered to fund it, but Tanisha insisted it come from donations and grants only. We build this the right way, she said, no shortcuts, no blood money. He respected that. Redemption didn't come easy. There were hard days, old scars that didn't fade as fast as headlines. But healing had its own rhythm. Every Tuesday, Tanisha still worked on cars, still taught, still got her hands dirty. And every Friday, she and Grant sat beneath a new oak tree planted behind the foundation building. They never forced conversation. Some days they didn't talk at all. But they showed up, because that's what redemption looks like. Not grand gestures. Consistency. Presence. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the red Arizona hills, a young girl approached Tanisha at the shop. She couldn't have been more than 9. My grandma said you fixed the school bus for free. The girl said shyly. That was nice. Tanisha smiled. Well, someone fixed my life once. I'm just passing it on. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a hand-carved wooden bird brooch. It had been Grant's, once. Now, he wore a new one on a chain around his neck, a gift from Amelia. Tanisha handed the old brooch to the girl. Take care of this. It means you believe in second chances. The girl nodded, clutching it like a treasure. From across the yard, Grant watched. He didn't interrupt, he just smiled. That evening, the three of them, Grant, Tanisha, and Amelia, shared dinner under string lights in the back of the shop. The food was simple, grilled vegetables, cornbread, iced tea, but the laughter was rich. The peace was real. Before dessert, Amelia lifted her glass. To the truth, she said, however long it takes, however hard it hurts, because in the end, it's always worth it. They clinked glasses, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt right, because sometimes, the deepest wounds don't heal with revenge, they heal with roots. With family, with truth, and with the quiet, persistent hope that no matter how far apart we've drifted, home is still waiting. The power of truth, family, and second chances. Sometimes, life tears people apart not with storms or fire, but with silence, years of unanswered questions, promises broken by time, and wounds left to scar in the dark. Tanisha's story reminds us that no matter how far we fall, how long we're forgotten, or how deeply we're betrayed, there's still a way back. Back to truth, back to family, back to the pieces of ourselves we thought we'd lost forever. This wasn't just a story about a woman fixing a broken engine on a desert road. It was about a life repaired, slowly, painfully, but beautifully. A mother and daughter reunited after decades. A man raised in privilege, choosing truth over comfort, and a community rediscovering its roots after being robbed of its land, its voice, and its history. It teaches us that redemption isn't a single moment. It's a choice, made over and over. With humility and love, that healing doesn't always come loud. Sometimes, it grows quietly in the background, like a tree from dry ground. And above all, it shows us that even the most painful truths, when brought into the light, can lead to hope. Real, lasting hope. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of someone you've lost, something you've kept buried, or a truth you've longed to face, leave a comment with the word hope below. Let's fill this space with stories of healing, of courage, of second chances. And if you want more stories like this, stories that dig deep, that remind us of our shared humanity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs it today. Because sometimes, the right story at the right moment can change everything.